I'll be honest with you. When I took the challenge, I initially thought it would be a cakewalk for me. But the moment I started solving passage 3, I realized why students say it's tough. Alright, so let's start with passage 1. It says evolution of language. Now we are not going to read the entire passage, or we are not going to be starting with reading the passage. We'll directly jump into the questions. So here we have questions 1 to 4. Do the following statements agree with the information given in the reading passage? We'll have to choose true if the statement agrees with the information. We'll have to write false if the statement contradicts with the information. Not given if there's no information on this. Also remember, we'll also write not given if there is partial information. Do not forget this. This is very important. This is where most students struggle when it comes to true, false, not given questions. So if we have partial information also, we'll be writing not given. Let's move to question number 1. The theory describing the emotional origins of language is widely rejected because it completely ignores the development of grammatical structure. Let me highlight the keywords here. Theory, emotional origins, language, widely rejected, completely ignores, development, grammatical structure. So we'll be going back to the passage now and we'll start skimming and scanning. I'm looking for words such as emotional origins, widely rejected, completely ignores. So let's start looking for these words. So we do not have it here in the first paragraph. Let's move to the second paragraph. Although this idea highlighted the emotional roots of communication. So here we do have the keyword emotional roots, which is nothing but it is paraphrased. Emotional origin paraphrased as emotional root of communication. It was criticized for failing to explain is basically it ignored and it did not explain how the grammatical structure developed. But here it doesn't talk anything about it being widely rejected. It only says it was criticized. So I see that both the information here are contradictory. So in that case, my answer for the first question will be false. Let's move to question number 2. While critics accepted Darwin's idea that language contributes to survival of races, they maintain that it cannot be classified as a biological trait. Now let's quickly underline some keywords. We have a name here. So I highlight Darwin because it's easier for us to locate in the passage. Language contributes, survival of races, maintain that it cannot be classified as a biological trait. Now let's go back to the passage, look for the keywords. So right below where I stopped, we have the name here, Darwin. So let me start skimming and scanning further down. So it does talk about physical traits. He suggested that vocal communication initially emerged as a means of social bonding, particularly in cooperative groups. Here again we have while Darwin did not propose a detailed linguistic model, his work encouraged scholars to consider language as an adaptive trait shaped by survival and reproduction. We do have it here and it does talk about the critics. Nevertheless, critics noted that language differs from other biological traits because it is learned socially rather than inherited genetically. We do have it talking about the critics, how it is, the trait varies, and it does talk about the survival of races. But here it does not completely say that it was accepted by the critics. Whereas the question here tells us that critics accepted Darwin's idea. The passage does not confirm anywhere that the critics accepted this idea. So it is partial information. My answer to this question will be not given. Let's move to question number 3. According to one expert, language evolution is attributed to a biologically specialized mental system rather than to social interaction. Now let's mark the keywords. One expert, we don't have a name here, but we have it as one expert. Language evolution, biologically specialized mental system rather than to social interaction. Right. So let's now move back to the passage, start skimming and scanning. We don't have a name here. So I'm going to look for an expert here. So we don't have it in this paragraph. Moving down. Here we do have a name of an expert. It says another influential figure, Noam Chomsky. And does it talk anywhere about social adaptation? So here we do have the keyword language evolution involved the development of a specialized cognitive mechanism, mental system, paraphrasing, rather than gradual social adaptation. So it does talk about it and it does agree to the statement given. So my answer to this question is going to be true. We have last question here for true, false, not given. Question number 4. While the theory recognizes the role of communicative demands such as hunting and tool making, it maintains that structured grammar existed before humans developed symbolic interaction. So my keywords here includes role of communicative demands. Hunting and tool making would be our major keywords because it is a distinct and it's going to help us locate easily in the paragraph, the passage I mean. It means that structured grammar existed before humans developed. Okay, structured grammar existed before humans. Now let's quickly go back, start skimming and scanning for these keywords. So we're looking for hunting, tool making. So here we do have it in this part. According to this view, early humans developed communicative gestures and symbols, and it says such as hunting or tool making. And they say that over time, means later, these symbols became increasingly abstract and grammaticalized. So what does this theory say? It suggests that language structure evolved. It evolved in response to communicative needs rather than pre-existing. So the statement tells us that grammar did exist before humans, but the passage clearly tells us that it evolved as a response to it, and it's completely contradictory. So my answer to this question here will be false. Now let's move to questions 5 to 9. Look at the following statements and the list of researchers. So we'll have to basically match people with the statements that they made, and we have list of researchers. We have 3 names here, numbered, or it is given as options A, B, C. We are going to be matching each of these statements with the correct person, and it also says NB, which means please note. You may use any letter more than once. And what are the names here? We have Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Charles Darwin, Noam Chomsky. Now let's look at question number 5. Maintain that the rapid mastery of complex grammar by children points to an inborn linguistic capacity rather than purely learned behavior. So we'll click rapid mastery as our keyword, complex grammar, children, very important, inborn linguistic capacity, it's not purely learned behavior. Children, very important, inborn linguistic capacity, purely learned behavior. Now let's go back, skim and scan. We are going to be looking at places where we have names, because it is all about matching the statements with these researchers. So it's going to be a little easier for us to locate the names and then match it to the statement. So I'm looking for keywords like inborn capacity, children. These could be paraphrased as well. So let's start looking for it. So we have a name here, but it doesn't talk anything about children. So let me keep moving down. We have Charles Darwin, but again, it does not talk anything about children. Here also we have a name, Ferdinand, but here again, it doesn't talk anything about children or inborn capacity. And again, moving further down, we have Noam Chomsky's name. And do we have anything talking about children? Yes. So here it clearly talks about why children learn complex grammatical systems rapidly and with limited input. And here it also says that Chomsky argued that humans are born with an innate capacity for language acquisition. So in that case, it is Chomsky. So I'm going to be marking my answer as C. Let's move to question number 6. Suggested that the origins of language should be understood within an evolutionary framework shaped by survival and social cooperation. Now let's underline the keywords. Origins of language, evolutionary framework, survival and social cooperation. Now let's go back, start skimming and scanning. So first we have a name here. Does it talk about survival, cooperation, origin of language? No. Now let's look at what Darwin has to say. It does talk about evolutionary perspective, and communication initially emerged. So we do have it here, which says Darwin suggested that vocal communication initially emerged or evolved as a means of social bonding, particularly in cooperative groups, right? So it is said by Darwin. So I'm going to be marking the 6th answer as option B. Let's move to question number 7. Proposed that early human communication emerged from instinctive emotional expressions before becoming conventionalized into shared symbols. Now let's mark some keywords here. Early human communication, instinctive emotional expressions, and then conventionalized shared symbols. So let's go back and look for emotions, expressions, early human communication, symbols. Let's try to locate the keywords. Do we have anything here in this paragraph? Let's move further down. We don't have anything here. These type of questions, you mostly have the answers coming in the order. So 90% of the time, it comes in the chronological order. So let's move further down. So Chomsky, do we have anything talking about emotions, expressions? Not surely. So let's go back. Okay, so we do have it here. It clearly says that Jean-Jacques Rousseau proposed that language originated from emotional cries and gestures. So emotional expressions rather than rational thought. So humans, early humans, we also have the keyword early humans, used vocal sounds to express feelings such as fear or excitement, which later become conventionalized into meaningful symbols. It is given exactly here. So my answer to question number 7 would be option A. Alright, let's move to question number 8. Acknowledged the communicative value of early vocal behavior but was criticized for not explaining the emergence of grammatical organization. So let's underline some keywords. Acknowledged communicative value, early vocal behavior, but was criticized for not explaining the grammatical development or organization. So let's move forward. Let's start skimming and scanning from here. So here we do have early human used vocal sounds, and it also says that this idea highlighted the emotional roots, but it was criticized because it failed to explain how grammatical structure or complex syntax developed. So it was again said by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. So my answer to question number 8 will be option A. Now let's do question number 9. Viewed language development as the result of specialized mental architecture rather than gradual adaptation to social interaction. So let's underline some keywords. Language development, specialized mental architecture, gradual adaptation to social interaction. Now let's go back, start skimming and scanning. I don't think we would have it here. Did Charles Darwin say this? We don't have anything talking about mental architecture here, not in this paragraph. So we have in this paragraph, in Noam Chomsky's paragraph, we could see that here. Very clearly it says, from his perspective, from Noam's perspective, language evolution involved development of specialized cognitive mechanism, which is again mental architecture rather than social adaptation. So we do have it here. So my answer to this question is going to be option C, Noam Chomsky. Alright, so we have the last set of questions for passage 1, questions 10 to 13, and we have summary completion type of question. It says complete the summary and you have to choose the correct letter A to J. And the heading here states the social origins of human language. Let's look at question number 10. Anthropological research indicates that the development of language was closely linked to increasing levels of societal dash. So it is very important that we look before the blank what is there, because that's going to help us locate the answer quickly and also locate the correct answer. My keywords here include anthropological research, development of language, closely linked, increasing levels of societal dash. So primary keyword anthropological research, increasing levels of societal dash. So let's look for the word. Okay, so we do have it here, anthropological evidence. It's easy to locate. So we have it here, anthropological evidence. Suppose language evolution is also there. Closely linked, paraphrased as closely tied to societal dash, to social complexity. So my answer here is complexity, but since we have list of words in the box, I'll have to match this word with its synonym and write the correct letter in the blank. So complexity, not superior. It cannot be simplicity. It cannot be intense, gestures, non-verbal. It could be intricacy, right? Societal intricacy. So my answer to question number 10 is D. Let's move to question number 11. As communities expanded, basic vocal signals became inadequate for maintaining relationships, leading to the idea that speech replaced physical grooming as a bonding mechanism. So my keywords here include communities expanded, vocal signals, inadequate, relationships, idea that speech replaced physical grooming as a bonding mechanism. So let's look for the keywords bonding mechanism, relationships, inadequate, communities expanded. Since it's a summary completion question, it's going to be in the same place where we located answer for question number 10. So I'm going to be skimming and scanning here itself. So do you see that here it states as human groups grew larger? It is nothing but it is paraphrased. Communities extended, human groups grew larger. So they're paraphrased and it became more interconnected. Basic vocal signals, here they've given it as simple vocal signals. Well, no longer sufficient. Again, this is also paraphrased. Became inadequate. To manage relationships, in the question it is given as to maintain relationships and transmit cultural knowledge. So what is going to be the answer here? Physical grooming is here, more efficient way to maintain social bonds. Bonding mechanism. So the answer here is efficient. Far efficient. Yes, physical grooming has a far efficient bonding mechanism. Now this efficient needs to be matched with the synonym from the box. So efficient cannot be simplicity, it cannot be intense, gestures, no hierarchy, isolation, speculation, non-verbal. It can be superior. Far superior bonding mechanism makes more sense. So my answer to question number 11 will be option A, superior. Let's move to question number 12. I'm not going to read what is given after that. Let's quickly start reading from research, because summary completion questions always has a lot of extra information, so we'll not be wasting time on that. Research into sign languages has further demonstrated that fully developed linguistic systems can emerge without speech, supporting the view that early human communication was mostly based on expressions. Now that's a big question. Let's carefully locate the keywords. Sign languages demonstrated fully developed linguistic system without speech, supporting the view that early human communication based on expressions. So let us go back to the same paragraph and start skimming from where we stopped. Maintain social bonds. Okay. So do we see the keyword here? Early humans? Yes. So indirect evidence, findings, okay. Development of language through symbolic behavior. It's all paraphrased completely. Cave paintings, burial rituals, and decorative objects indicate that early humans were capable of symbolic thought, a key prerequisite for language. While such artifacts do not prove spoken language existed, they suggest that cognitive abilities necessary for complex communication were already present. So some researchers argue that emergence of symbolic cultural language likely reinforced over each other. Okay. Role of gesture, linguistic system, this has led to, okay. So here we have it, because there it talks about researchers, so scholars, to propose that early human communication relied heavily on gestures, because here it says early human communication was mostly based on dash. See, usually summary completion questions will have a lot of extra information in between, so do not get lost. Keep reading until you find the exact missing part or the answer. So here, relied heavily on gestures. So my answer here to this question will be gestures. So this has to be matched with the synonym from the box. Gestures is nothing but your movements, anything that is an action, I would say, without using any words or without speaking. Basically, gestures will go with synonym non-verbal. So my answer to this question would be 12th one will be J, non-verbal expressions. Let's move to question number 13. Despite ongoing debate over whether language evolved slowly or appeared rapidly, most scholars agree that its development resulted from the dash of multiple biological, cognitive, and social factors. So our keyword here is going to be multiple biological, cognitive, and social factors. Scholars agree that development resulted from dash. So let's actually look for these keywords: cognitive, multiple biological factors. Some scholars argue gradual development. So researchers agree that language evolution cannot be explained. Right. So here it does say it cannot be explained by single factor. Instead, it likely resulted from interaction of biological capacity. We do have it here: social cooperation, cognitive development, and cultural transmission. So my answer to this question, that is question number 13, is interaction. So instead of single factor, it is all forming, or it is all moving towards a one factor, which is it is moving towards uniformity, I would say. So in this case, instead of interaction, we can use the word convergence. So my answer to this will be option F, because we cannot use speculation, isolation, hierarchy. None of this matches actually. So it will be convergence of multiple factors, that is biological, cognitive, social factors. With that, we have finished passage 1. Let's move to passage 2. The heading here is development of sound in motion pictures. Again, we're not going to be reading the passage. We'll quickly jump into the questions. We have question number 14 to 18, and it says choose the correct letter A, B, C, or D. So this is a multiple choice question. Let's look at question number 14. Why were early silent films able to succeed despite the absence of recorded sound? So we look at keywords. I'm not going to look at the options now. I'll directly go to the passage, skim and scan, locate, detail read, and then we'll come back. Absence, recorded sound. So let's go back to the passage now. So early films, how did they succeed despite the absence of sound? So that's what you're looking at. Absence of sound. So here we have it. It says that in the earliest decades of cinema, films were produced without recorded sound, relying instead on live musical accompaniment, narration, or sound effects performed in theaters. Although the system lacked consistency, it allowed exhibitors a degree of flexibility as music could be tailored to suit local tastes. And it also says, despite the limitations, silent cinema developed a rich visual language, demonstrating that sound was not initially essential for cinematic success. So we do have it here. It talks about the success, and instead it did not have any sound. How did this happen? Now we are going to be using our very important strategy here, which is process of elimination. So I'm going to be reading one by one all the options, and then we'll eliminate the options which are either contradictory to the passage or which is not at all mentioned in the passage. Now let's look at option A. They compensated by using advanced visual effects. Did we come across anything talking about visual effects? No, so I'm going to be eliminating that option quickly. Moving on to option B. They relied on a flexible system of live accompaniment that could be adapted locally. So it did tell us here, moving back to the passage, it did say that live accompaniment, and it is having degree of flexibility. It could be adapted to local taste, to suit local taste, basically paraphrasing. So this is going to be my answer, although we'll look at other options and eliminate them as well. They avoided complex narratives that required emotional. So it did not anywhere talk about complex narratives or emotional expression, eliminated. They were universally understood without cultural linguistic variation. Universally understood? Not really. It did not talk about this, especially without cultural linguistic variation. So my answer to this question will be option B. So let me write it here. It's going to be B. Now let's move to question number 15. What was the major concern that filmmakers had regarding the introduction of synchronized sound? So I'm just going to be taking very few keywords from here. Let's keep filmmakers, synchronized sound, major concern. So let's go back. We're not looking at the options. So we have a keyword here that says synchronized sound, but do we have anything talking about any concern here? It threatened. So it threatened is basically, it was a concern because it did threaten established production methods and international distribution as language barriers now became a concern. So this is what it says. Let's look at the options and decide. It reduced audience interest in visual. No, we do not have anything talking about audience here. We'll eliminate that. Doubtful about recording audio directly onto the film strip. We do have it here, but it actually tells us that they were able to successfully do it. This part clearly tells us that they were recording it directly and it did improve timing accuracy. But here it says they were doubtful. No, that is contradictory information. So let us eliminate this option. Option C, the established production techniques and global distribution were at risk. Exactly. This is what is mentioned in the passage, that it did threaten the production of global distribution. So let's keep it. Option D, it eliminated the need for actor training. We do not have anything talking about actors and performance, so let's eliminate. My answer to this question will be option C. Let's mark it. Let's write it here. Answer is option C. Now let's move to question number 16. According to the passage, why did some actors struggle during the early sound era? Now we'll take few keywords so it is easier for us to locate. Actors struggle early sound era. Again, I'm not looking at the options. I'll go back, start skimming and scanning. Do we have anything talking about actors, early sound era? Yes, we do have actors, silent performers. Okay, let's do a bit of detailed reading in this paragraph. I'm going to be reading here. Resistance sound was particularly strong among directors actors who had mastered silent techniques, while silent performers relied on exaggerated gestures and facial expressions, demanded a restrained style. Consequently, okay, so here it says some actors struggled to adapt, especially if their voices did not match audience expectations. Furthermore, early microphones were static and insensitive, which forced actors to remain close to hidden recording devices. Although these constraints were temporary, they initially restricted camera movement and visual creativity. So the entire paragraph talks about the actors in those early era where there was no sound or they were introducing sound into cinema. Option A, audiences rejected spoken dialogue in favor of exaggerated physical acting. Not really, it does say that they're trying to match it, so we'll eliminate this option. Early microphones forced unnatural performance style and limited movement. We does have this where it says that it was the mic were static and insensitive and it restricted actors' movement. So we'll keep it. Option C, sound technology required actors to perform without, we don't have anything talking about rehearsals. Option D, with the introduction of sound, actors were not allowed to use facial expressions. It does not talk anything about facial expressions. In fact, they were using gestures and expressions only. So we'll be eliminating this contradictory information. So my answer to this question will be option B. Early microphones forced unnatural performance styles and limited movement. So let's write it here, option B. Alright, let's move to question number 17. How did filmmakers' use of sound evolve as technology improved? So we'll take filmmakers, use of sound evolve, technology improved. So we'll go back, skim and scan. I'm looking for keywords related to filmmakers, sound, evolve, technology. Let's start from here. Do we have anything talking about filmmakers? No. Okay, we do have filmmakers, but it doesn't talk about anything related to technology improvement or the sound evolving. Again, here we do have sound, it's throughout, but we do not have anything talking about filmmakers. But here I could see the keyword filmmakers and it does talk about sound technology improved. So we'll continue skimming and scanning. Record about sound, precise integration with narrative events, similarly sound effects enhance realism, weather through footsteps, okay. And again we have something talking about development of sound. Design marked a significant turning point and it does talk about filmmakers and they began to, what did they do? They began to manipulate sound creatively and exaggerated to reinforce themes, thus despite primary function, artistic use expanded far beyond simple imitation. So let's go back. Sound was limited strictly to realistic reproduction of no. We'll eliminate this option. It does not say that. Dialogue became the only meaningful auditory component of films. Not really. Sound began to be manipulated. Yes, it did. Yes, it did say that. Filmmakers began to manipulate sound creatively. We'll look at option D. Music and sound effects gradually replaced visual storytelling. So we don't have anything talking about replacement. So my answer to this question will be option C because it did clearly say how filmmakers with the development of sound started to manipulate it creatively. So option C is going to be the answer for question number 17. Let's move to question number 18. What criticism emerged as sound design became more complex in modern cinema? So let's mark the keywords. We'll take criticism, sound design, more complex, modern cinema. Again, I'm not looking at the options. I'll quickly skim and scan for the keywords. Sound design, criticism emerged. Do we have anything talking about it? Yes, so here it does talk about it. Nevertheless, the increased reliance on sound also raised concerns. Criticisms. While technology progress enhanced realism, some critics argued that excessive sound effects and loud music could overwhelm narrative substance. And it became more complex, production costs rose significantly. And these are all the concerns or drawbacks. It embraced innovation and sensory engagement justified the investment. Alright, so these are some of the concerns. Sound made films shorter and less detailed. We do not have anything talking about it. Eliminate. Advanced sound systems reduced emotional engagement. We do not have anything mentioned regarding emotional engagement. Digital sound eliminated the need for careful film. No, not really. So we only left with one option which says excessive sound could overpower stories, content, and race. Yes, it did say. Furthermore, it improved the cost. And also it did say it can overpower the narrative substance, which is nothing but stories content. So paraphrasing. So answer to question number 18 is option D. Alright. Now moving to questions 19 to 23, last set of questions for passage 2. Again, we have true, false, not given questions. So this is something that we are aware of, where we'll have to write true, where we'll have to write false, and we'll have to write not given if there's no information or if there is partial information. Always remember this. Question number 19. Recording audio directly onto film significantly improved the accuracy of synchronization between sound and image. So we'll take the keywords here. Recording directly onto film, improve the accuracy, sound and image. So let's go back. Start skimming and scanning. Recording film directly, did it improve significantly between sound and image? So we don't have anything talking about recording. Synchronized sound, introduction of sound on film. Okay, so we do have it here. I'm going to highlight this part. The introduction of sound on film technology, however, enabled audio to be recorded, it said between image and sound directly onto the film strip, significantly improved timing accuracy. So it did do that. So answer to this question will be true. The statement completely agrees. Now let's move to question number 20. The adoption of sound in cinema was slowed primarily because audiences showed little interest in hearing recorded dialogue. So let's mark the keywords. Adoption of sound slowed primarily. Audiences showed little interest to hearing dialogues. So did it slow because audiences showed little interest? So my keyword primarily will include audience little interest. So let's start scanning and skimming from where we stopped. We don't have anything talking about audiences here. We do not have it here. We do have audiences where, okay, we do have it here, exactly. So this is given here and it says audiences were fascinated by hearing characters speak, sing and interact in a more lifelike manner. But the statement tells they showed little interest and here it says they were fascinated. So both are contradictory. So my answer here is going to be false. Moving to question number 21. The creative use of silence in films was initially regarded as a technical failure rather than an artistic choice. So let's mark the keywords. Creative use, silence, initially regarded technical failure instead of artistic choice. Creative use of silence, and we are looking at technical failure. Let's look for words. Initial use of sound. So we do have sound and it relied on this flexibility, synchronized dialogue, limited possibilities, conveying emotion, subtle narrative shift. Inventors combined sound and image earlier. Okay, although sound promised realism, it does not talk. There is no any information regarding it having a technical failure instead of artistic choice. We do not have any information on this when we skimmed 2 paragraphs. So I'm going to go with not given. Let's move to question number 22. Later sound technologies enabled filmmakers to create the illusion of movement and distance through audio. So let's mark the keywords. Sound technologies enable filmmakers create illusion of movement and distance through audio. So any of these words could be paraphrased. So we'll look for filmmakers, movement and distance. So we'll again start skimming from the very first paragraph. We do not have anything here. Again, we did have it talking about filmmakers over here. This is the area where we did have it talking about filmmakers. So let's skim over here. So it does not talk about movement and distance. Do not have anything about movement and distance here as well. Another major advancement. Yes. So here it does talk about spatial depth, allowing audiences to perceive movement and direction. So while early films used mono sound, later technologies enabled audio to be distributed across multiple speakers and it had the sense of spatial depth, which enhanced audiences' perception towards movement and direction. So it is there. So the exact statement is given. So it matches with the information in the passage. So my answer to this question will be true. Alright, moving to last question under true, false, not given. Question number 23. The passage states that most cinema audiences are consciously aware of how sound influences their emotional responses to film. So let's take cinema audiences consciously aware how sound influences their emotional response. Now since it talks about the passage states, so we might find it towards the end because it's more like the entire passage that they're talking about. So I'm going to be starting my skimming and scanning from where we left. So let's start from here. Let's do a detailed reading in this area. Do we have anything related to audiences? We do have subconscious audiences. So here it says sound continues to shape pacing, emotion, and meaning, often operating on a subconscious level. While is a transition word, audiences may focus primarily on what they see. What they hear plays an equally important role in shaping their. So we do have the information here, but it does not talk anything about how it plays or how it affects the emotional experience of audience or their emotional response. So it is partial information, and we don't have anything talking about emotional responses in the question. And we don't have anything talking about emotional responses in the passage. So my answer to this question will be not given. Questions 24 to 26. We have matching sentence ending type of questions. It says complete each sentence with the correct ending, A to F, and we'll have to move it to the gap. Question number 24. Silent films were able to succeed as a cinematic form. So we have to find the correct ending. We have 3 questions and 6 options. We'll have to be very careful. So let me mark my keywords here. Silent films able to succeed as a cinematic form. So these are my keywords. So let's look at silent films. So we do have it here that says that despite these limitations, silent cinema developed a rich visual language, demonstrating that sound was not initially essential for cinematic success. So what does it say here? Films are produced without recorded sound. Silent cinema means it doesn't have any sound, relying on live musical accompaniment, narration of sound effects performed in theaters, and it allowed exhibitors degree of flexibility as music could be tailored to suit local taste. Right. So it also says the absence of synchronized dialogue limited storytelling possibilities, convey complex emotions and subtle narrative. All right. Let's go back and look at the options. Even though they were restricted in communicative, subtle, emotional, and narrative detail, it did. That's exactly what we just read. So we'll keep that. Because exaggerated physical acting was no longer, doesn't talk about it, even though it initially limited visual creativity and movement, not really. Serve emotional purposes, not really. Despite the high financial investment, doesn't talk about any financial investment or cost. Audiences preferred visual story. We don't have anything talking about the audience here. So those days, films without sound were successful because I'll go with option A. Form, even though they were restricted in communicating subtle emotional and narrative detail. So if you can look at this part, that's what it says. Nevertheless, the absence of dialogue limited storytelling possibilities, particularly conveying complex emotions or subtle narrative steps. So we do have it here. All right, let's move to question number 25. The film industry adopted sound production rapidly. So let's mark the keywords. Film industry, sound production rapidly. So let's start skimming and scanning for this. Film industry, sound production rapidly. So we do have, we're talking about film but not industry, film industry as such. I'm looking for the word rapidly, so we do not have anything here. So here it does talk about despite these difficulties, sound quickly rapidly its commercial value. So here again it says as a result, studios rapidly converted to sound production even though the financial costs were considerable. Equipped with new playback system, production companies were required to retain. Okay, so here we have it talking about how rapidly it became widely used among the industry, even though it was expensive. So option A is already used, so we cannot use that. Option B, it talks about physical acting, no. Even though it initially limited visual creativity, it does not talk about visual creativity here. Serve emotional purpose, nothing related to it. High financial investment required from studios. We did have that talking about how studios were okay with it. So we will go with option E. So answer to question number 25 is E. It does not talk about visual storytelling, so we'll stick to option E. Question number 26. With advances in sound technology, music and films began to. So keywords here include advances, sound technology, music and films began to. So let's move to the passage, start skimming and scanning from here. So this is the part we will do a bit of detailed reading. As sound technology improved, expressive potential, dialogue remained important, auditory elements such as music and sound effects increasingly sophisticated, and provide, although music had complete silent films, recorded sound and integration with narrative events. And again, we have something talking about development of sound design. And it says exaggerated, for example, became a powerful tool, often heightened tension emphasis, thus despite sound production, the artist used audio and imitation. Okay, so I think we'll go back and look at the options. A is already used because exaggerated physical acting was no longer effective. So we don't have anything talking about physical acting. We will eliminate this. This is already used. E is also already used. Even though it initially limited visual creativity, not really. Serve emotional purposes beyond simply creating atmosphere. And F says because audiences preferred visual. We do not have anything talking about audiences preferring visual storytelling, but it does talk about emotional purposes, and rather than simply imitating, it did create an atmosphere to serve emotional purpose. So answer to this question will be option D. Alright, so with that we have finished passage 2. Passage 3. You should spend about 20 minutes on questions 27 to 40, which are based on reading passage 3, and it says questions 27 to 34. The text has 9 paragraphs. Choose the correct heading for each paragraph and move it into the gap. So we totally have 9 paragraphs, and let's see how many headings we have. We have around 13. So there's always extra headings. So one paragraph can only have one heading. We'll keep that in mind. With that, let's quickly start skimming and scanning. I'll just quickly underline some keywords, highlight some words so it is easy. Identity formation and psychological challenges, financial cost, complex medical procedure, risks separating conjoined twins, unresolved issues of consent in long-term research, media influence in public attitudes towards illness, medical advances and limitations in surgical separation, the rarity of conjoined twins, conjoined twins, controversy, broader medical benefits, studying conjoined twins, historical exploitation and modern concerns about representation, medical rarity of conjoined twins and public interest in their condition, ethical debates over intervention and quality of life, conjoined twins reveal about early human development, balancing ethical safeguards with scientific progress. So these are the keywords that we have here. Now let's quickly move to paragraph A, question number 27. And this passage is all about conjoined twins. So here I'm going to be identifying the main idea, and only then I'm going to be using process of elimination from the list of options that we have for the headings, and then I'll arrive at my correct answer. So let me read the first sentence. Conjoined twins have long fascinated both the scientific community and the wider public, not only because of their rarity but also because of their complex biological, medical, and ethical questions they raise. And the last sentence tells us about advance in medical imaging and neonatal care have improved outcomes. Research remains contested, debated, particularly when scientific curiosity intersects with ethical responsibility. So what does the paragraph talk about in between? Defined as identical twins, physically connected at birth, conjoined twins occur when a fertilized egg only partially separates. So it talks about how they develop, and researchers generally agree that the condition occurs approximately 1 in. So what is the probability of this condition across the world, right? Worldwide birth. So let's understand from the list of headings. So we have identity formation and psychological challenge. We do not have anything talking about it. Financial costs of complex medical procedures, no. Risks associated, we do not have any risks. Unresolved issues, not really. Media, we don't have anything talking about media influences or public attitude. We don't have anything talking about surgical separation or medical advance, rarity of and controversy surrounding their study. So we did have this keyword here that talks about rarity and the controversy, which is nothing but we had the word here that is contested, which is nothing but debated or controversial, right? And we do have the keyword here rarity. So I am going to go with option 7, but before that, let's also eliminate other possible options. Broader medical benefits. We do not have anything talking about benefits. Historical exploitation, no. Medical rarity or public interest, not really. Ethical debates over intervention, quality of life. It does talk about the debate or controversial, but nothing related to intervention and quality of life. Early human development, we don't have the word there. And scientific progress, ethical safeguard, not really. So we will stick to option number 7 as the answer. So paragraph A, my answer is option 7. Alright, let's move to paragraph B. I'm going to read the first sentence, last sentence, and then I'll skim through the paragraph. From a biological perspective, conjoined twins offer unique insights into early human development. And the last sentence says, nevertheless, although, so these are transition words. So these could probably transition the idea, so may not be related to what the paragraph talks about in the beginning. So please be very, very careful. So I'm being mindful as well. Although such research contributes to broader biological knowledge, critics caution against viewing them as merely scientific specimens. And here we have a name. Dr. Emily Carter argues a significantly enhanced understanding of embryogenesis. Income division provides value evidence of symmetry of the body's early development. So again, it talks about developmental factors without genetic variation, right? So let's arrive at the main idea, and then we'll start with the process of elimination. We cannot use option 7 because that is already been used. So I'm going to be striking this option out. Identity formation and psychological challenges. We did not come across any challenges or identity formation. Financial costs of complex medical procedure. We don't have anything talking about financial cost. Risks associated with separation. We don't have anything talking about the risks here. Unresolved issues of consent in long-term research. Nothing related to unresolved issues. Media influence. Nothing about media influence. Any limitations in surgical separation? Not really. Option 8, broader medical benefits. We do not have anything talking about medical benefits, so we'll eliminate that as well. And historical exploitation and modern concerns about representation. Nothing related to historical exploitation specifically. Medical rarity, public interest, not really. Ethical debates over intervention, quality of life, not given. Conjoined twins reveal about early human development. This word strikes, right? It did talk about early human development. Again, we had something talking about the early development and how it revealed each of this in the research, that is by Emily Carter. When she did study about this, how it did describe about the body's axis and symmetry are developed during the early development. So we will stick to option number 12, although option number 13 talks about ethical safeguard, which we did not come across in the paragraph. So I'll be eliminating this because we have already used it. Option number 12 is my answer. What conjoined twins reveal about early human development. So let me write it here. Option 12 is for paragraph B. Now let's move to paragraph C. Medical research has also focused extensively on the surgical separation. So here we have something talking about surgical separation of conjoined twins. And the last sentence again starts with the transition word however. Wong also acknowledges, we have a name here, that not all separations are feasible or ethically justifiable, particularly when one twin survival depends entirely on the other twin's shared vital organs. So again it talks about separation of the twins. Again it does talk about surgeons and refined techniques predict outcomes. We have Professor Daniel Wong, pediatric surgeon, who's specializing in twin separation. Again, so throughout this paragraph, what I repeatedly come across is surgical separation, specializing in twin separation, and talking about how the separations are not at all feasible for all the twins. So again, it keeps talking about revolving around the separations, MRI, CT scan, right? So we'll go back. We have arrived at the main idea. Let's look at the options. Identity formation, no. Financial cost, risks. So we do have separating conjoined twins, but we are not really talking about risks, I would say. It does not list down the risks. Unresolved issues, consent, no. Media influence, no. Medical advances and limitations. Yes, surgical separation. It does not just talk about separating conjoined twins, but through surgery, because we have Professor Daniel Wong, surgeon. So we will stick to option 6. But let's also eliminate other possible options. Broader medical benefits, not really. Historical exploitation, no. Medical rarity, no. Ethical debates, no. We don't have anything talking about ethical safeguards with scientific progress as well. So I will stick to option number 6. Let's strike this out. We cannot be using it for any other paragraph. So medical advances and limitations in surgical separation. Answer to paragraph C will be option number 6. Let's move to question number 30, paragraph D. Let's start with the first sentence. Let's do a bit of skimming. We'll also do a bit of detailed reading. Medical advances, ethics of research and intervention remain deeply contested. Contested again, nothing but controversial, or let's say debate. So that is the synonym here. We have a name again. Bioethicist Dr. Laura Mendel argues that decisions regarding separation, quality of life, right? And then the last sentence talks about although surgical separation, physical autonomy can also ensure. Again, this talks about risks associated or the outcomes of surgical separation of conjoined twins. She emphasizes the presence of surgical expertise does not automatically imply moral obligation. Some cases made up successfully, but developing strong functional independence. All right. So it does talk about risks, but also it talks about their ethics in terms of research and quality of life as well. So let's look at the options. Identity formation, psychological challenge, no. Financial cost, no. It could be risks associated, but it does not talk about risks, but actually the outcomes, I would say. So we'll not talk about option 3. We'll skip option 3. Unresolved issues, long-term research, no. Media influence, we don't have anything related to it. We cannot use these. We have already used it. Option 8, broader medical benefits. We don't have anything talking about benefits. Historical exploitation, nope. Medical rarity, public interest, we don't have these keywords or anything related to that. And option 11, ethical debates over intervention and quality of life. We did have this. It did say contested, which is nothing but debate, and we did have quality of life here, right? Intervention remained, and it had the moral obligation, right, to intervene. So yes, we will stick to option number. Please understand, it's not about keyword matching, but it is all about understanding the meaning, arriving at the main idea of the paragraph. So that's what we have done. We have read it, we have understood the meaning, and then I'm trying to match with the words in the passage and the headings. So we'll eliminate option 13. We don't have anything talking about ethical safeguards or scientific progress. So we'll stick to option number 11. Let's strike that out. Answer to paragraph D is ethical debates over intervention and quality of life. Option number 11. Alright, let's move to paragraph E. Psychological research on conjoined twins further complicates the debate. So conjoined twins research complicates the debate. Let's see what the last part of the paragraph has to say. Public attention, invasive media coverage, social stigma can negatively affect psychological well-being, raising questions about whether increased research exposure exacerbates these pressures. Exacerbate basically worsen the condition, I would say. So we have clinical psychologists often develop distinct personalities and self-identities despite sharing, and researcher Samuel Otis found that twins frequently refer to themselves as separate individuals with independent preferences, emotions, and aspirations. Again, we have however, again transition word. Although identity formation appears robust, social challenges persist. So we have arrived at the main idea. It did talk about how they find it. Although they are conjoined, they would like to have often develop distinct personalities, self-identification, despite sharing a body. So let's go ahead. Identity formation and psychological challenges. Yes, it could be. Let's look at option 2. Financial cost. No, we don't have anything talking about risks associated with separating. Unresolved issues or consent. No. Media influence or public attitude towards illness. Media, yes, but it doesn't talk about anything related towards the illness. So we'll eliminate option 8. Broader medical benefits. No. Historical exploitation and modern concern. Not really. Medical rarity, public interest. No. Balancing ethical safeguard, scientific progress. We do not have any of these keywords or anything talking about it, but the paragraph did talk about how although they share a body, they do like to identify it differently and they develop distinct personalities. So we did have the idea surrounding this. So I think we'll mark option 1 because we have eliminated all other possible options. So my answer to question number 31, paragraph E is option 1. Now let's move to question number 32. We'll find the heading for paragraph F. Nevertheless, proponents of continued research argue that studying conjoined twins benefits not only those. Okay, so we do have continued research studying conjoined twins benefits directly affected, but also medical community. And again, although transition words, such findings are exceptional. Need contends that they challenge established assumptions about consciousness and neural independence. So we have vascular sharing, neural development, organ plasticity. Neurologist Dr. Hanali points to rare cases of twins sharing neural connections as evidence that brain plasticity may be greater than previously assumed. Okay, so it does talk about the benefits and how it is actually helping a wider medical community, and we have a name. All right, let's go back. Let's look at the options. Financial cost, no. Risks associated, no. Unresolved issues, long-term research, not really. It is not discussing any issues. We don't have anything talking about media influence. So let's move to the later part. Broader medical benefits. It did talk about how it is helping a wider medical community. The benefits are serving wider medical community when they study conjoined twins. So we'll keep option 8. Historical exploitation, not really. Medical rarity of conjoined twins and public interest, we do not have anything about it. Balancing ethical safeguard. So I'm going to be eliminating all other options. We'll stick to option number 8. Broader medical benefits derived from studying conjoined twins. So we'll mark this here. Paragraph F, answer is going to be option 8. Right. Let's move to question number 33, paragraph G. Even so, ethical concerns about consent remain unsolved. So we have keywords such as ethical concern about consent remain unsolved. And the last sentence talks about additionally, furthermore, adding information as twins grow older, their preferences regarding continued study or public exposure may diverge. This raises complex questions about whose consent should prevail when interests conflict and cannot provide informed. Again, repetitively, there is some keyword that comes again and again which talks about ethical concerns over consent, informed consent. Again, when they grow, how should they be prevailing? Whose consent should they be checking? Because their interests are conflicting. They have diverged because their interests are conflicting. All right, so let's go back. So we look at option number 2. Financial costs of complex medical procedure, not really. We don't have anything talking about financial cost. Risks associated, no. Unresolved issues, no. Yes, unresolved issues of concern in long-term research. Unresolved issues of concern in long-term research, yes. So we do have something talking about it because we have the particular keyword concerned everywhere, and especially how they have conflict of issues. So 5th option, media influence, not really. 9th one, no. 10th option, medical rarity, or 13th one, not really. So we will stick to option 4 because that's what it clearly states. So I'm going to be eliminating this because we cannot use it for any other option. So let's move to paragraph G and write it here. The answer for this is going to be option number 4. We have one last paragraph left for matching heading questions, which is paragraph H. Question number 34. Cultural and historical perspectives also shape contemporary research debates. All right, let's highlight some keywords here. Cultural and historical perspective shape contemporary research. Historically, conjoined twins were often displayed as curiosities, reinforced harmful stereotypes and exploitation. And it does say, consequently, she advocates for participatory research models that include the voices of conjoined twins themselves. Rejects such approach. Subtle forms of exploitation persist when academic prestige or media attention influence research priorities. So we also have a name here. Sociologist Dr. Karen O'Neill wants that scientific chemical unintentionally dehumanize individuals by reducing lived experiences. Right. So it does talk about the exploitation. That's one word that is repetitive, but it also says that how it is very subtle that even when academic prestige or media influence is there in the research priority, it does have a subtle exploitation. So we look at the options. Financial cost, no. Risks associated, we do not have anything talking about it. Media influence on public attitude towards illness. So we do not have anything talking about illness and public attitude. Historical exploitation and modern concerns about representation, yes. Medical rarity and balancing ethical safeguard, not really. So we will go with option number 9. Historical exploitation and modern concerns about representation. So answer to paragraph H is going to be option number 9. So let's put it in the blank. So this is already done, which is your paragraph I is option 13, which is already done. So that's basically an example. All right, moving to question number 35 to 37. We again have summary completion type of question, and we have questions 35 to 37. Complete the summary using the list of words. Choose the correct letter A to G. And the heading here says advances in surgery and ethical boundaries. So now let's read question number 35. Advances in medical imaging have significantly improved surgeons' ability to dash shared organs and blood vessels, leading to more precise surgical planning and improved survival outcomes. So that's a long information because it's a summary completion. They have summarized probably 2-3 sentences into a single sentence or an entire paragraph into one sentence. So let's carefully select our keywords. Advances, medical imaging, surgeon's ability, dash, shared organs and blood vessels, leading to more precise surgical planning and improved survival outcomes. So let's go back, look for medical imaging, organs, blood vessels, ability to dash. So the word that is before the blank and after the blank is very important. So we are able to choose the correct missing word. So let's start skimming and scanning from the beginning. Do we have anything talking about medical imaging, improved? No, we do not have any of these keywords here. So we do have medical research and we do have advances in imaging technology here. So let us highlight this. Advances in imaging technologies is MRI and CT scan, which enables surgeons, which allows surgeons to map shared organs and blood vessels. And he also tells that particularly how the survival rate depends. So here the missing word I would say is enable surgeons to map shared organs and blood vessels. So what is missing? Let's look at the blank. Leading to more precise, improved surgeons' ability to map shared organs. So map is what is missing. So map, surgical action, forecast, viable cannot be a synonym, legitimacy, chart, execution, accuracy. No, map can mean chart. So answer, we will mark it as option E. Surgeon's ability to map shared organs and blood vessels. Alright, moving to question number 36. However, experts caution that not all separations are medically or ethically dash. So we have a transition word and it says not all separations are medically or ethically dash. So we can also predict sometimes, but let's not take that risk. Moving back, we'll just skim and scan in the same paragraph. However, we again have the transition word. Wong also acknowledged that not all separations are feasible or ethically justifiable. So we do have the missing word here, which says all separations, not all separations are feasible or ethically justifiable. All separations are not feasible or ethically justifiable. Feasible or justifiable. Do we have the word feasible or justifiable? Surgical action forecast. Feasible could mean viable, but we don't have justifiable. So I think we will go with feasible. So my answer to this question will be option C, viable. Moving to last question under summary completion, question number 37. Ethical debates emphasize that technological capability should not automatically justify dash, particularly when separation may reduce overall quality of life. So let's underline the keywords carefully. Ethical debates, technological capability, automatically justified, particularly when separation may reduce quality of life. So we are looking at keywords such as technological capability, automatically justify what, ethical debates. So we did stop here. So let's start skimming and scanning from the next paragraph. Despite these medical advances, the ethics of research and intervention remain deeply contested. So we do have the word that ethical debates. So we do have it. And we do have the keyword quality of life here. So here it says, she emphasizes that the presence of surgical expertise does not automatically imply or automatically justify, paraphrasing, moral obligation to intervene. Alright, so going back, what is missing? We must be very careful here. Technological capability should not imply what? Surgical action. So we do have surgical action, which is paraphrased as surgical expertise. So my answer to this question will be option A. That is the missing word here. Presence of surgical expertise does not automatically justify intervention. Alright, moving to questions 38 to 40. Do the following statements agree with the claims of the writer in the reading passage? So here we have yes, no, not given type of question. It says choose yes if the statement agrees with the claim of the writer. Choose no if the statement contradicts the claim of the writer, and not given if it is impossible, whether we are confused to say what the writer actually thinks about it. Now let's move to question number 38. The writer suggests that most researchers agree about ethical scientific research and medical interventions when studying conjoined twins. So let's mark some keywords. Writer suggests that most researchers agree about ethical scientific research and medical interventions when studying conjoined twins. So let's look for keywords such as ethical scientific research, medical interventions. So I'm going to be start skimming and scanning from the beginning. We do not have anything talking about research here. Even the second paragraph doesn't talk about anything related to research. So here we do have medical research has also focused extensively on surgical separation, and it doesn't talk about the writer suggesting that ethical research outcome and how they agreed to it. So we have a paragraph D that talks about ethics of research. So this statement tells us that ethics of research and intervention remain deeply contested. So here it says that they had a debate over it or it had opposing views, but the statement actually tells us that most researchers agreed about it when they studied conjoined twins. So both are contradictory information because statement clearly says agreed and the passage says they had a debate over it. It was deeply contested. So with that, we will mark the answer to this question as no, contradictory information. Moving to question number 39. Conjoined twins often develop conflicts because of distinct identities and individual preferences. So conjoined twins develop conflicts, distinct identities, individual preferences. So we do have it talking about here self-identities, distinct personalities. Psychological research on conjoined twins further complicates the debate. Studies conducted by clinical psychologists suggest that conjoined twins often develop distinct personalities and identities despite them sharing a body. So independent preferences, emotions and aspirations, public attention, right? So this is again partial information. We do have the information here regarding them having separate identities although they share a body, but it doesn't talk about them developing conflicts because of this nature. So this information is not there, whether there's conflict or not. So we will mark it as not given. Moving to the last question, question number 40. Some critics believe that contemporary academic study on conjoined twins may still contain covert kinds of victimization. Now let's underline the keywords. Critics, contemporary academic study contain covert kinds of victimization. Now let's start skimming and scanning from where we stopped. This is done. So let's look at paragraph F. Do we have anything talking about the study on the twins? Not really. Concerned, this paragraph is all about concerned, and here we do have contemporary research. All right, so let me highlight this. Cultural and historical perspectives also shape contemporary research debate, and it says critics argue that subtle forms of exploitation persist when academic prestige or media attention influence research priorities. So it is completely given here and it is paraphrased. Victimization could be exploitation. Covert, like more like a hidden, I would say hidden sort of exploitation that's happening. So critics did argue that, or they did accept that there was some sort of exploitation. So paragraph H explicitly states that. With that, we have come to the end of this live reading section solving challenge. Give me my next challenge in the comments.